everyone, Kelly Dean Allen here with you again. So then, in 1984, if Hanoi Rocks drummer Razzle hadn't died in a car accident at the hands of a drunken Vince Neil of Motley Crue, I honestly think that the band Hanoi Rocks would be much more of a household name these days. They were most definitely on the cusp of mega fame in the mid-80s, when it all came crashing down with the death of the band's drummer. The band simply couldn't recover from his death and sadly broke up shortly thereafter. But man, what could have been with these guys had that tragedy not struck the band. They were, however, hugely influential for loads of bands that did find major success in the latter half of the 80s. Most notably Guns N' Roses. That said, I implore you, go watch the video for Boulevard of Broken Dreams from 1984 and tell me that you don't see the numerous image and stylistic similarities between them and GNR, as they're impossible to miss. Regardless, great track from the band's 1984 major label debut. Let's close in, have a look at how it's played, shall we? Alright then, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Hanoi Rocks from 1984. We are in standard tuning for this tutorial. The opening riff to this one is played only at the beginning and not repeated again throughout the rest of this track, and we are dealing with 5 3-finger power chords: F sharp, E, B, A, and D. So we're starting in the F sharp, and then we're going to go off to E, and we are arpeggiating notes out of these power chords. So we're going E, A, D string, and then we're going E, A, D string in E, right? Kind of like that. Then we're going to drop into B and go off to A. But before we drop into B, we're going to grab a quick open A. And then when you're in A, after you hit the G string, you're going to come back up to the D string. Kind of like that, right? Then we're going to go E into D twice. Kind of like that. So we're going to arpeggiate this E. And then you're going to come back up to the A string, that second fret, slide it into 5. Ride down and back up the strings again in this D 3-finger power chord. And you repeat that twice. And that's the first half of the riff. Right? Then we're going to go back to F sharp, start it again. But coming off this A the second time, we're going to go back to E into F sharp and then off to E again. And then when we go back off to E the second time, you're just going to chug on it like 7 or 8 times, building, right, leading into the chorus riff, which kind of starts this song. So that is the intro. B, A, B, B, F sharp, E, B, A, F sharp, E, right? And over top of the second half of that riff is this. There's a big pick scrape down the neck, right? And then there's these little triads. So we're sliding into this little F sharp minor triad, 11, 10, 9 of the top 3 strings. Just going to ride down the top 3 strings. And then we're going to slide into this little E major triad by sliding into 13 of the G and then riding up the top 3 strings. Kind of like that. A little bar on the 12s with your index, 13 of the G. Right? And then we're off to the 7s of the G and the high E with the open B in the middle. So we're going to slide into that 7 and then ride up the top 2 strings. Right? And then slide that whole thing up 2 spots. And then ride up the top 3 strings. So every second time you're riding up the top 3 strings, the first time you're riding up the top 2 strings. Right? And then we're off to E major at the neck position, first fret of the G, and then open E, open B, and then you're going to slide into the 2s of the G and the high E, right up the top 3 strings, and then you're going to take that shape, move it up 2 spots, and then go G string, catch the high E, maybe a bit of that open B as well, twice. And just let it ring, right? Right, and then we're into the chorus riff, which kind of kickstarts this song. At this point we drop into the first verse. So B power chord here at the 7th fret position, little down, up, down, and then down to E, immediately back to B again, right? B, E, B, and then back to E, a little down, up, down, right? And then we're into this little lick. So we're keeping our ring finger here planted on the 9 of the G, and we're going to be moving around here on the B string. 10 off to 9, right, of the B, off to 7, back to 9, back to 7. All the while keeping your ring finger planted on that 9 of the G. Right, it's a separate guitar, but you have time to play this, right? E, B, second time, off E, you're going to go to D, right there leading into the first verse, right? E, B, E to D, and that leads into the first verse, with that right there. Which we're going to repeat 3 times for the first, for each half of the verse. F sharp power chord, off to E, off to D. So you're going to hit this one 3 times, with a little down, up, down, back it up to E, back it up to D, and then off to A. And you're just going to chug on this A for 2 bars. Broken dreams have made me see. Now to finish up the verse, we're going to come off that A. The 3rd time we go off to that A, we're going to go into an E at the neck position and then into D. So kind of like this. After playing that progression 3 times, off to E at the neck. And then you're going to drop into D, right? So. And when you're in D, you're doing a full D bar chord. You're going to bounce off the sus here on the 8th fret of the B string. And then you're going to hit that D a couple of more times, and then back into that again, right? So that is the verse riff, 3 times of that. Then E at the neck, and then into D. Immediately back into that again. There's also this little lick. Little classic little blues lick, right? Little bending double stops here coming out of that D. Right? Separate guitar, little bending double stop here on the 9s, G and B. Release off to 7, grab the 9 of the D, and then back to the double stop on the 7s, right? Immediately into this. Second half of the verse. E, D. Now, while one guitar hangs in D, does this twice, the other guitar is playing this. Just little D major, little D major pentatonic lick, right? 9 of the G. Finishing 9, 7, 5 of the A, right? So kind of like this. Right, so So if you're playing this on one guitar, I'd drop out of that D and drop into that lick. And then we're into the pre-chorus. B minor, full B minor bar chord. So you're going to chug on that B minor bar chord for one bar. 2, 3, 4. And then the second bar, you're going to hang in that B minor, but you're going to grab the top 3 strings slowly on the upstroke. Kind of like that. Move it into F sharp at the 10th fret position. Do the same thing. Back to B minor. And then F sharp at the 2nd fret position and chug on it for 2 bars. Right into the chorus. Right, so that's the pre-chorus. B minor, F sharp, B minor, F sharp, 2nd fret. Building, right? Same as the first verse, right? Drops into another chorus. Not the same as the first chorus. Starts the same. You're going to repeat that 3 times for the second chorus. And then back to B, right? E, B, E. We're going to do that one more time. And then we're going to keep playing the same progression, but we're going to change it a little bit. We're going to take this and drop it an octave because he's going to start singing a verse over this. Same progression. Back to E. We're playing the same progression, but now we're playing in an octave lower. So we're on the 7s of the A and the D with our ring finger and pinky, backing the D string off to 6, off to 4, back to 6, and then back to 4. A little bit awkward. Kind of like that, right? Instead of this. Exact same thing, but an octave lower. Right? I think you repeat that little progression like 6 times as he's singing a verse over that same progression. And then we drop into the bridge with a key change into C. So we're going to grab a 3-finger C power chord, a little down, up, down. So we're repeating this little octave progression here twice. So we're dropping into C, right? And then we're going to do some octaves. So we're sliding into 8 and 10 of the A and the G string, hitting it 3 times, backing it up 1 spot, and backing it up 2 spots to 5 and 7. Kind of like that, and then off to F. And then we're going to slide into 6 and 8. And do the same little progression. Back it up 1 spot, hit that 6 and 8 3 times, back it up once, and then back it up 2 spots to 3 and 5, coming off the F. And then back to C. F. And that's the bridge. So let's just recap that. C, octaves, F, octaves, C, F, and coming off this 3/5 the second time. We're going to drop into an A power chord again, chug on it for 2 bars, drop down to D for 2 bars, chug on that. There's kind of a slide solo going on over top of this, a little bit buried in the mix. We're not going to get into that, but it's 2 bars of A, 2 bars of D, 2 bars of A, back into D, and then we're going to drop into this again. But before we do, D, slide solo, right? Back to A, and back to D, into this. Again, right? And then we're going to drop back into A again, and we're going to continue this until the end of the track. So just chugging on this A, tail end of every second bar, D, 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 A, D, 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 A, D, 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 A, triple hits on that D, and right at the very end, we're going to do that little progression again, that F sharp off to E off to D, slowing it down as we go, off to A, big finish, in A, end of track. And there you go. That is how you play Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Hanoi Rocks from 1984. Certainly hope you enjoyed that, found it helpful. If you did, please hit that like button right down there. Maybe drop me a subscribe if you haven't done that already, as that would be very kind and helpful to my channel. Hope you're well out there in your little guitar corner of the world, wherever that may find you, and we will see you next time. Cheers.